First contact and looming threat. Dr. Layla Sharma stared at the monitor in the darkness of Io Deep Space Observatory, her coffee long forgotten beside her keyboard. The data couldn't be right. She ran the calculations again, watching as the computer confirmed what she'd discovered minutes earlier. A formation of objects, moving in perfect synchronization, was accelerating toward the inner solar system from beyond the Kuiper Belt. Director Hayes, she called, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her system. You need to see this. Hayes appeared at her station moments later, his weathered face illuminated by the blue light of the monitors. He studied the trajectory plots in silence, the implications sinking in with terrible clarity. How long? He asked finally. At current acceleration, 87 days until Mars orbit, 103 until Earth. Hayes straightened, his decision immediate. Inform the Security Council. Classification level Omega. Within 12 hours, representatives from every spacefaring nation had assembled at the United Earth Defense Council headquarters beneath Geneva. The room hummed with tense conversations in dozens of languages as Admiral Chen Wei of the Pan-Asian Alliance Fleet took the podium. The room fell silent. The objects were tracking display characteristics inconsistent with natural phenomena, she began, her voice echoing through the chamber. Their formation, acceleration curves, and energy signatures all point to artificial origin. We are not alone, and whoever is coming has mastered interstellar travel. Screens throughout the room displayed the formation, hundreds of objects arranged in perfect geometric patterns, maintaining precise distances while accelerating as one. Have they responded to communication attempts? Asked the African Union representative. We've transmitted across all standard frequencies using mathematical sequences and binary code. Admiral Chen replied. No response. Commander Eliza Reyes stood silently against the back wall, analyzing the formation with a career soldier's eye. The Martian-born officer had served in 3 interplanetary conflicts, and something about the approaching fleet triggered her combat instincts. That's a battle formation, she said, her voice cutting through the chamber. All eyes turned to her as she stepped forward, uninvited. Commander Reyes, Mars Defense Corps, she said by way of introduction. I studied historical naval and space tactics extensively. This formation maximizes offensive coverage while maintaining defensive integrity. It's designed for one purpose: warfare. You can't possibly know their intentions, objected the European Federation's diplomat. Physics and mathematics are universal, Rice countered, approaching the main display. These spacing patterns create optimal firing lanes while minimizing exposure. If they wanted to appear non-threatening, they'd approach in a scattered or spherical pattern. Dr. Vikram Sharma, Earth's leading xenolinguistics expert, studied the data with growing concern. Commander Reyes makes a valid point. Even accounting for cultural differences, certain tactical principles would apply to any spacefaring civilization. Admiral Chen nodded. We should proceed with caution, but prepare for hostilities. The council erupted into overlapping arguments until Secretary General Okafor's voice cut through the chaos. How long do we have? 85 days, replied Chen. And our defensive capabilities. The room grew silent. Earth maintained a modest defense fleet, enough to handle rogue asteroids and occasional interplanetary disputes, but nothing prepared for an advanced alien armada. If they've mastered interstellar travel, said Dr. Sharma, their technology likely surpasses ours by centuries. Commander Reyes stepped forward again. With respect, defeatism won't save humanity. We need to mobilize every resource, every ship, every weapon. We need to prepare Mars as our first line of defense. Mars? Why not concentrate our forces at Earth? Asked the North American representative. Because Mars gives us strategic depth, Reyes explained. If we force them to engage at Mars, we'll learn their capabilities before they reach Earth, and the Martian colonies have been built with defense in mind from the beginning. Admiral Chen studied Commander Reyes with newfound respect. The commander's logic is sound. Mars provides tactical advantages, lower gravity well, established military infrastructure, and the element of surprise. The aliens will expect our primary defense at Earth. Secretary General Okafor surveyed the room. Very well. We implement a two-phase defense strategy. Mars will be our forward line, Earth our final stand. She turned to Admiral Chen. You'll coordinate the combined fleet operations. With your permission. Chen replied. I'd like Commander Rice to serve as my tactical advisor. Her Martian experience will prove valuable. Within days, humanity mobilized on a scale never before seen. Civilian shipyards converted to military production. Retired vessels were recommissioned. Training programs operated around the clock. Meanwhile, the public received sanitized information, an unidentified celestial phenomenon requiring scientific investigation. In Dr. Sharma's laboratory beneath the Geneva complex, his team worked frantically to decipher any communications the aliens might send. We need to understand them, he insisted to his exhausted staff. Language is the key, even in warfare. 73 days before projected arrival, their first break came. A transmission from the alien fleet, directed at Earth. The message arrived in pulses of radiation that initially seemed random. It's a mathematical sequence, Dr. Sharma realized after hours of analysis. Prime numbers, followed by what appears to be a symbolic language. Working around the clock, his team began constructing a translation matrix. 3 days later, they had their first partial decryption. We are the hegemony, Sharma read to the assembled council. Your system now falls within our domain. Prepare to receive our emissaries. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. The chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. Not exactly coming in peace, Commander Reyes noted grimly. Dr. Sharma continued. We've cross-referenced terms in their language with our database. This hegemony appears to be an expansionist collective. The phrasing suggests they've done this before. How many times before? Asked Secretary General Okafor. Sharma hesitated, based on numerical references in their transmission. At least 17 other star systems. Commander Reyes and Admiral Chen exchanged glances. They weren't just facing a superior force. They were facing experienced conquerors. Send a response, ordered Okafor. Diplomatic but firm. We welcome peaceful contact, but will defend our sovereignty. The hegemony's reply came within hours. Sovereignty is determined by capability. You will be evaluated. In the following days, Earth's intelligence services uncovered disturbing information. Long-range telescopes detected debris fields around nearby star systems, evidence of large-scale space battles. The hegemony's expansion had been neither peaceful nor contested successfully. Commander Rice led a briefing for fleet captains, displaying tactical analyses of the approaching armada. They're segregated into 3 distinct groups, she explained, highlighting sections of the formation. Vanguard units here, heavy assault vessels in the center, and what appear to be support ships trailing. Their formation suggests they don't expect significant resistance, Admiral Chen added. They're optimized for an overwhelming first strike, not a prolonged engagement. Then we give them something they don't expect, Rice said, outlining her developing strategy. 58 days before arrival, Dr. Sharma made another breakthrough. We've detected differences in their ship configurations, he reported. The leading vessels show signs of damage and repair. They've been in combat before. But the trailing ships appear newer, possibly rushed into service. They're extending themselves, Commander Rice concluded. This campaign might be stretching their resources, which means they can be beaten, Admiral Chen said. For the first time since the crisis began, a flicker of hope spread through the Defense Council. Humanity still faced overwhelming odds, but perhaps not impossible ones. As Earth's combined fleet assembled in Mars orbit, Commander Reyes walked the decks of the flagship Terra, inspecting preparations. The fleet comprised vessels from every nation. Chinese kinetic strike cruisers, European carrier ships launching swarms of autonomous drones, American energy weapon platforms, and Russian heavy destroyers bristling with nuclear missiles. Will it be enough? asked Captain Miguel Santos, the Terra's commanding officer. Reyes watched through the viewport as a formation of ships conducted maneuvers against the backdrop of Mars. "It will have to be," she replied. "But we have advantages they don't expect. We're fighting for our home, our species, and we've had time to prepare." On Earth, civilians continued their lives largely unaware of the existential threat approaching. Only strange military exercises and unusual satellite launches hinted at the mobilization occurring in orbit and beyond. The Defense Council had decided that preventing panic was crucial. Humanity needed to present a unified, calm front when the hegemony arrived. In his laboratory, Dr. Sharma monitored the hegemony's communications, building an increasingly comprehensive language database. One particular transmission caught his attention. A message from what appeared to be a command vessel. Initial scans detect minimal defenses around the third planet. Primary resistance expected there. The fourth planet appears to be a mining colony with negligible military presence. He immediately forwarded the intercept to Commander Reyes and Admiral Chen. Their strategy of concealing Earth's main defense at Mars was working. The hegemony was underestimating them. 30 days before projected arrival, the waiting game began to shift. A small group of vessels accelerated ahead of the main hegemony fleet, scout ships, based on their size and energy signatures. "They're coming to assess our defenses," Admiral Chen noted during the daily briefing. "This is where our deception begins." Commander Reyes outlined the plan. "We allow them to detect some of our forces at Earth, enough to confirm their intelligence. Meanwhile, we keep our main fleet concealed behind Mars and its moons, using the planet's electromagnetic field to mask our signatures." As the scout ships approached Earth orbit, they encountered exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a modest defense force, consistent with a civilization that had only recently achieved interplanetary travel. After 2 days of passive scanning, the scouts departed, accelerating back toward the main fleet. "Now we wait," said Admiral Chen. In the darkness of space, Earth's combined fleet prepared for humanity's greatest challenge. The survival of the species would be determined in the void between worlds, where human courage and ingenuity would face an enemy that had conquered 17 star systems before them. Commander Reyes stood on the observation deck of the Terra, watching as Mars rotated slowly below. Everything humanity had built, everything they had become, would soon be tested in fire. "We're ready," she whispered to the red planet below. The Mars Defense Initiative. The Martian sky shimmered with atmospheric processors working overtime as the colony prepared for potential bombardment. Governor Alexei Leonov supervised evacuation drills throughout Olympus City, the largest settlement on the red planet with nearly 1 million inhabitants. "All critical systems are now hardened," reported his chief engineer. "Water reclamation, air processing, power generation, all can continue functioning even if we lose 70% of surface structures." Leonov nodded grimly. "And the underground shelters. Capacity for the entire population, supplies for 6 months." Mars had always been built with survival in mind. From the first permanent bases established 30 years earlier, the colonists had lived with the knowledge that help from Earth was months away at best. Self-sufficiency wasn't just a goal. It was the difference between life and death. Now that mindset would serve all of humanity. In orbit, Commander Eliza Reyes and Admiral Chen Wei observed the final deployment of their trap. The combined Earth fleet had positioned itself in a complex three-dimensional formation, with major battle groups concealed behind Mars and its moons Phobos and Deimos. Only a token force remained visible, appearing to conduct routine patrols. The hegemony scout ships reported minimal defenses. Dr. Sharma confirmed from his communications center aboard the Terra. "Their main force continues on its original trajectory, exactly as we hoped." "How many ships are we facing?" asked Admiral Chen. "Final count shows 342 vessels of varying configurations," replied the sensor officer. "Mass estimates suggest their total firepower exceeds our combined fleet by approximately 3 to 1. Commander Reyes studied the tactical display. "Numbers don't win battles," she said. Position, timing, and courage do. Her statement wasn't mere bravado. The battle plan she had developed leveraged every advantage humanity could muster. Mars' lower gravity well for enhanced maneuverability, the cover provided by its moons, and most importantly, the element of surprise. Any progress on their weapons systems? Admiral Chen asked Dr. Sharma. The scientist nodded, bringing up a complex energy analysis. We've identified 3 primary weapon signatures. Their main vessels carry energy projectors operating on principles similar to our particle accelerators, but vastly more powerful. Secondary ships use what appear to be mass drivers, kinetic weapons. The smallest vessels deploy some form of short-range energy field that could function as both offense and defense. Have you identified vulnerabilities? Potentially, Dr. Sharma replied. Their main weapons require significant energy buildup before firing, approximately 17 seconds based on our analysis of their weapons tests. Additionally, their ships generate distinct energy signatures immediately before changing course. With precise timing, we could anticipate their movements. Commander Reyes absorbed this information, refining her battle plans. We'll need to coordinate our attacks to exploit that firing delay. Hit them during their vulnerable window. Meanwhile, Mars continued its preparations. Throughout the colonies, civilians trained for emergency response, medical facilities expanded capacity, and engineers reinforced critical infrastructure. Automated defense systems, railguns, and missile platforms were activated around key settlements. If the orbital defense failed, Mars would not fall easily. The Hegemony fleet was now just 5 days from Mars orbit. Tension throughout the fleet increased as final battle preparations were completed. Aboard the Terra, Commander Reyes addressed the assembled ship captains, the last in-person briefing before combat positions would be taken. Intelligence suggests the Hegemony has never encountered significant resistance during their expansion, she began. They expect a conventional defense concentrated at Earth. Instead, they'll face our full combined strength at Mars, in a battle configuration they cannot anticipate. She activated the tactical display, showing the intricate choreography that would unfold once the battle began. We will allow their vanguard to commit to Mars orbit before revealing our main force. The attack will come in 3 coordinated waves, targeting their command and communication systems first. Captain Santos of the European carrier Perseus raised a concern. Their ships vastly outgun ours individually. Even with surprise, can we prevent them from simply overwhelming us with firepower? That's where Dr. Sharma's discovery becomes crucial, Reyes replied. Dr. Sharma. The scientist stepped forward. We've developed a targeted electromagnetic pulse weapon based on our analysis of hegemony communication frequencies. When deployed, it should temporarily disrupt their coordination and weapons targeting systems. The effect will only last approximately 90 seconds, but during that window, their technological advantage will be neutralized. Admiral Chen added, "This will be our moment to strike decisively. Every captain must commit fully when the signal is given. There will be no holding back, no reserves. Everything we have, at exactly the right moment." The meeting concluded with a moment of silence, unplanned but somehow necessary. These were the men and women who would stand between humanity and extinction. Many would not survive the coming battle. As the captains returned to their vessels, Commander Reyes lingered on the observation deck, watching the fleet disperse to battle positions. Dr. Sharma joined her, his tablet displaying the latest communications intercepts from the approaching armada. "They're still unaware," he confirmed. "Their communications indicate they expect token resistance at Mars, with Earth's main defense forces still organizing. They've never faced a unified planet before," Reyes noted. "All their previous conquests were against individual nations or divided worlds. They don't understand what happens when humanity stands together." Dr. Sharma studied the commander's confident profile. "You truly believe we can win this?" "I believe we will fight with everything we have," she replied. "Sometimes that's enough to change the impossible into the merely improbable." 3 days before the expected engagement, humanity received its first visual confirmation of the enemy. Long-range telescopes captured images of the approaching hegemony fleet, massive, geometric vessels with gleaming hulls that pulsed with energy. The largest ships spanned nearly a kilometer in length, dwarfing anything in Earth's arsenal. The images were not shared with the general public. On Earth, life continued with anxious normalcy, the population aware that something was happening but kept ignorant of the full threat. On Mars, however, colonists knew exactly what approached. Their homes would be the battlefield where humanity's fate would be decided. 48 hours before expected contact, a tense moment arose when sensors detected a small group of hegemony vessels accelerating ahead of the main fleet. Another scouting force, larger than the first. They're being more thorough this time, Admiral Chen observed from the Combat Information Center. Shall we adjust our positions? Commander Rice studied the approaching formation. No, maintain concealment. If they detect some of our forces, it will only reinforce their expectation of a light defense. They'll still commit their vanguard, as planned. As predicted, the hegemony scouts conducted a more detailed survey of Martian orbit, detecting approximately 30% of Earth's concealed fleet, enough to register as a colonial defense force, but not enough to suggest Earth's main military presence. They're transmitting to their main fleet, Dr. Sharma reported, monitoring their communications, recommending full commitment of vanguard forces, with heavy units held in reserve for Earth. Commander Rice allowed herself a tight smile. Exactly as we wanted. 24 hours before engagement, Mars completed its final preparations. Civilians moved to underground shelters. Surface installations powered down to minimal operations. Military forces took combat positions. Throughout the colonies, a strange calm descended. The quiet before the storm. Aboard the Terra, Commander Rice reviewed the battle plan one final time with Admiral Chen and the fleet's senior officers. Every detail had been analyzed, every contingency considered. Earth's finest minds had created a strategy that gave humanity its best chance for survival. The hegemony expects us to behave like every other civilization they've conquered, Rice concluded. Disorganized, defensive, predictable. We will show them humanity is different. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Chen held Commander Rice back. Your plan is brilliant, Commander, but war rarely follows even the best plans. I know, Rice acknowledged. When the plan fails, we adapt. That's humanity's greatest strength. We improvise. We overcome. The hegemony relies on technological superiority and predictable enemies. We'll be neither predictable nor technologically inferior, not where it counts. She tapped her temple, then her heart. The final hours ticked away as the hegemony fleet approached Mars. Throughout Earth's combined fleet, crews made their peace, checked their systems, and prepared for combat. Personal messages were recorded for loved ones at home, messages all hoped would never need to be delivered. Dr. Sharma worked frantically to refine his electromagnetic pulse device, running final simulations to maximize its effect. The weapon represented humanity's best chance to level the technological playing field, even briefly. If we succeed, he told his team, future generations will remember this as the day humanity claimed its place among the stars. If we fail, he left the thought unfinished. 6 hours before expected contact, long-range sensors detected the hegemony fleet decelerating, preparing to enter Mars orbit. Their formation had changed. The vanguard now moved ahead in attack configuration, while their heavy units maintained position farther back, ready to deal with whatever resistance they encountered. 128 ships in the vanguard, reported the Terra's sensor officer. The remaining vessels are holding position approximately 3 light minutes out. Commander Rice nodded. Precisely as intelligence predicted, their arrogance will be their undoing. Throughout the concealed Earth fleet, final combat preparations were completed. Weapons systems were brought to full power. Fighter squadrons prepared for launch. Marines checked their boarding equipment, ready to capture alien technology if the opportunity arose. All ships report ready, Admiral Chen announced. "Then we wait," replied Commander Reyes. "Let them commit fully to the trap." As the Hegemony Vanguard approached Mars orbit, they deployed into a standard combat formation, a three-dimensional grid optimized for maximum fire coverage. Their movements were precise, mechanical, betraying centuries of military evolution. If their communications revealed any concern about the defense force they had detected, it didn't affect their approach. "They're beginning planetary scans," Dr. Sharma reported, focusing on settlements and infrastructure. Commander Rice watched the tactical display as the alien vessels spread out in Martian orbit, their weapons systems powering up for what they expected to be a brief, overwhelming strike against colonial defenses. "They're fully committed," Admiral Chen observed. Rice nodded, then opened the fleet-wide command channel. Her voice would reach every ship, every fighter, every soldier preparing to defend humanity. "All units, this is Commander Reyes. The hegemony has come to claim our worlds, believing we will submit as 17 systems before us have done. They expect a primitive species cowering before superior technology. Today, we show them humanity's true strength." She paused, watching as the final Hegemony Vanguard ships moved into position, completing their deployment. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt. For Earth and Mars." Throughout Martian orbit, concealment measures disengage. Ships hidden behind the planet and its moons engage drives simultaneously, emerging from electromagnetic shadow into attack positions. Fighter squadrons launched from carrier vessels. Missile platforms unveiled from asteroid camouflage. In an instant, what had appeared to be a token colonial defense transformed into humanity's full military might, surrounding the Hegemony Vanguard in a complex three-dimensional formation that cut off their retreat vectors. The greatest battle in human history had begun. The final stand and victory. The Hegemony Vanguard reacted with remarkable speed to the sudden appearance of Earth's combined fleet. Their formations tightened, weapons systems redirected, and communications frequencies burst with activity. Yet in those crucial first minutes, they betrayed something humanity hadn't anticipated: surprise. "They didn't expect this," Dr. Sharma observed, monitoring their communications from the terrace bridge. Their tactical language contains indicators of confusion. Commander Reyes seized the moment. "All units, execute primary attack sequence. Target their command and communication nodes." Earth's fleet moved with practiced coordination. From positions above and below the Hegemony formation, railgun platforms launched hypervelocity projectiles, while energy weapon ships focused concentrated beams on the largest alien vessels. Fighter squadrons swarmed toward the smaller Hegemony ships, targeting propulsion systems and weapons arrays. The aliens responded with devastating counterfire. Energy beams lanced through space, slicing through 3 Chinese cruisers as if they were paper. Kinetic projectiles shattered a European carrier. Death tolls mounted within the first minutes of engagement. "Russian battle group taking heavy losses in Sector 4, reported the tactical officer. "American energy platforms requesting reinforcement at Position Delta." Admiral Chen studied the casualty reports with a grim expression. "We anticipated 40% losses in the initial exchange. We're currently at 32%. "Hold formation," Commander Reyes ordered. "Wait for my signal." The battle expanded across Martian orbit as both sides maneuvered for advantage. The Hegemony's technological superiority became increasingly evident. Their weapons hit harder, their shields absorbed more damage, their propulsion systems allowed faster repositioning. Yet humanity's numbers and surprise attack had created momentary parity. "Hegemony main fleet has detected the engagement," Dr. Sharma reported urgently. "They're accelerating to support their vanguard. Arrival in approximately 22 minutes. Commander Reyes nodded. This was expected. Status of the pulse weapon. "Final calibrations complete," Sharma replied. "We can deploy on your command, but we'll only get one shot. The energy requirements will burn out the emitters." "Understood." Reyes opened a channel to all ship captains. "All units, prepare for Phase 2. We have 20 minutes to inflict maximum damage before their reinforcements arrive. The battle intensified as human forces pressed their attack, focusing fire on key hegemony vessels. Despite mounting losses, Earth's fleet maintained its encirclement, preventing the aliens from regrouping or establishing a coherent defense perimeter. On Mars below, defensive systems activated as some hegemony ships attempted to attack colonial settlements. Rail guns and missile batteries returned fire from hardened positions. Governor Leonov directed the defense from his underground command center, coordinating with orbital forces to protect critical infrastructure. Olympus City defense is holding, he reported to the Terra. We've lost 2 atmospheric processors, but primary life support remains intact. 16 minutes before the hegemony's main force would arrive, Dr. Sharma detected a change in the alien communication patterns. They're adapting, he warned, shifting to secondary frequencies and establishing new command hierarchies. Our targeting data is becoming obsolete. Commander Reyes had anticipated this. Deploy Phase 2 targeting solutions. All ships switched to secondary target packages. The battle entered a new phase as the hegemony vanguard began coordinating more effectively, concentrating fire on key human vessels. The Terra shuddered as enemy fire impacted its shields. Shields at 62%, reported the defensive officer. Structure holding. Admiral Chen surveyed the tactical display. We've destroyed approximately 30% of their vanguard, damaged another 25%. But our losses are mounting faster now. Commander Reyes made her decision. Prepare to deploy the pulse weapon. All ships. Execute Maneuver Epsilon on my mark. Throughout the fleet, captains acknowledged the order. This was the moment they had trained for, a synchronous maneuver that would briefly position their vessels to maximum advantage while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. 10 seconds to optimum position, announced the navigation officer. Commander Reyes watched the tactical display as ships moved into precise formation. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Earth's fleet executed a perfectly coordinated maneuver, ships adjusting position with millisecond precision. At exactly the right moment, Dr. Sharma activated the electromagnetic pulse weapon. A ripple of invisible energy expanded from the Terra, traveling at near-light speed through the battlefield. As it washed over hegemony vessels, their systems flickered and faltered. Weapons powered down. Shields fluctuated. Communications ceased. 90-second window. Rise announced. All units, execute maximum attack. Human forces unleashed everything they had. Missiles launched from every vessel. Railguns fired at maximum capacity. Energy weapons discharged continuous beams. Fighter squadrons swarmed undefended alien ships, targeting critical systems. For 90 seconds, humanity held the advantage. The hegemony vanguard, robbed of their technological superiority, could only endure the onslaught. Ship after ship erupted in silent explosions, adding to the debris field spreading through Martian orbit. When the effect of the pulse weapon faded, the battlefield had transformed. Nearly 60% of the hegemony vanguard had been destroyed or disabled. The remainder struggled to reestablish formation, their confidence visibly shaken. But victory remained far from certain. The pulse weapon had burned out as expected, and the remaining alien ships quickly reorganized. Worse, their main fleet continued its approach, now just 7 minutes away. All ships, defensive positions, Commander Reyes ordered. Prepare for Phase 3. Earth's battered fleet regrouped around Mars, forming a defensive perimeter. They had bloodied the hegemony, but at terrible cost. Nearly 40% of human vessels had been destroyed, with many more damage. The remaining vanguard ships are pulling back, reported the tactical officer, regrouping to join with their main force. Commander Reyes and Admiral Chen exchanged glances. This wasn't in their projections. The hegemony should have pressed their attack, trying to eliminate Earth's forces before reinforcements arrived. They're being cautious, Chen observed. We've made them uncertain. Good, Reyes replied. Uncertainty leads to mistakes. As the vanguard retreated, Dr. Sharma made a discovery that changed everything. "Commander, I've detected unusual energy fluctuations in the damaged hegemony vessels. Their power cores appear unstable, possibly from the interaction between our pulse weapon and their systems." Rais leaned forward, studying the sensor data. "Can we exploit that?" "Potentially," Sharma replied, his mind racing. "If we could trigger a cascading overload in one of their larger vessels, the resulting explosion might create a chain reaction through ships in close proximity." It was a desperate gamble, but with the hegemony's main fleet approaching, desperation was all they had left. "Identify the most vulnerable target," Rais ordered. "Captain Santos, prepare your remaining fighters for a strike mission." On the Terra's hangar deck, the surviving fighter pilots received their briefing. The mission was effectively a suicide run. Penetrate the hegemony formation, deliver precision strikes to an already damaged alien dreadnought's power core, then attempt to withdraw before the chain reaction began. Squadron leader Fatima Hassan addressed her pilots. "Volunteers only. The odds of return are minimal." Every pilot stepped forward. 4 minutes before the hegemony main fleet would arrive, 12 fighters launched from the Terra, carrying specially modified penetrator missiles designed to breach alien armor. "Main hegemony fleet has divided," reported the tactical officer. 2/3 continuing toward Mars, 1/3 accelerating toward Earth. Commander Rais had expected this. They're hedging their bets. Admiral Jane's reserve force will have to handle the Earthbound group. We focus on what's in front of us. The fighter squadron approached the regrouping hegemony vanguard, flying in tight formation to minimize detection. Their target, a damaged dreadnought designated Alpha 7, drifted slightly outside the main alien formation, its energy signature fluctuating erratically. "Approaching attack vector," Squadron Leader Hassan reported. "Enemy point defenses still offline from damage." "Proceed," Commander Rais ordered. "All ships prepare to exploit the chaos. Target packages loaded and ready." The fighters accelerated to attack speed, closing rapidly on the damaged dreadnought. At the last possible moment, hegemony sensors detected them, and nearby vessels began turning defensive systems in their direction. "Taking fire," Hassan reported. 3 fighters lost. Continuing approach. The remaining 9 fighters weaved through increasing enemy fire, closing on their target. One by one, they launched their penetrator missiles before breaking off, each pilot executing precision strikes against mapped weak points in the dreadnought's armor. "Multiple direct hits," confirmed the tactical officer, watching the sensor feeds. Energy fluctuations increasing in target vessel. Dr. Sharma monitored the readings intently. "It's working. Power core destabilizing. Estimated detonation in 30 seconds. Commander Rais opened the fleet channel. "All vessels, execute maximum burn on heading Mark 27. Now." Earth's fleet accelerated away from the hegemony formation as the damaged dreadnought's power core reached critical levels. The massive alien vessel erupted in a blinding explosion that rippled through nearby ships. Secondary explosions followed as the energy wave triggered similar overloads in damaged vessels. "Chain reaction confirmed," exclaimed Dr. Sharma. Energy surge propagating through their formation. The hegemony vanguard, already weakened from the earlier battle, disintegrated under the cascading explosions. Ships that had been merely damaged now shattered completely. Those that had remained intact found themselves engulfed in a storm of debris and energy. When the sensor displays cleared, nearly 80% of the remaining vanguard had been destroyed. The survivors, disorganized and crippled, drifted in expanding debris fields. But there was no time for celebration. The hegemony main fleet had arrived, their massive dreadnoughts dwarfing the vanguard vessels. These ships showed none of the damage or vulnerability that had allowed Earth's victory over the vanguard. 516 vessels, reported the tactical officer, voice tense. Energy signatures suggest at least twice the firepower of the vanguard. Admiral Chen's expression was grim. We've lost nearly 60% of our combat strength. The remaining ships have depleted ammunition and damaged systems. On Mars below, Governor Leonov sent a simple message. Whatever happens, Mars stands with you. Our defenses are ready. Commander Rice studied the tactical display, searching for options. The electromagnetic pulse weapon couldn't be used again. Their surprise advantage was gone. Conventional tactics would lead to only one outcome: annihilation.